Hello everybody, this is Kyle from DailyExhibition.com. Today I want to be doing something a little bit different, and it's going to be covering WordPress themes, upcoming ones, and ones that are released, and they're typically going to be paid ones on the ThemeForest marketplace. Today we'll be looking at something called the Elite News. I've looked at this theme because it's a really powerful news template. It's got a really nice layout, it's got a lot of features, but we're going to be looking at it from a webmaster perspective and say, do you need it or is it right for you? The key things you should look for when choosing a theme, as I've already stated, are what does the SEO of the theme, does it have any built-in schema, and how quickly does it load? Now, I'm going to say right now, let's look at some quick things that are obviously going to be an issue. Number one, these are all images. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 requests are just from the images. Most webmasters will simply just use Font Awesome because it will reduce, it'll cut not only the page load, the page load and how much space it takes up, but it'll also cut out the HTTP requests, which will overall improve the load time. Another thing is all these images, I'm willing to bet, are from Gravatar. Gravatar, while wonderful, slows your website down. Because not only is it adding more DNS requests, it's also making files extremely large that they don't necessarily need to be. In Gravatar, you should always compress the image before you upload it, but Gravatar does not do this on its own. So images are constantly going to be too large, and they're adding a lot of extra round trips to your website. This thing also has a lot of sliders and a lot of extra content. As we could see, there's a lot of stuff going on that could be adding to the load time. Probably one of the biggest things that we could check is how things are loading. If I click this, notice how it says that the URL is a hashtag with tab. The images do not appear to be loading with Ajax. I don't think these are Ajax widgets, meaning that everything that's being loaded is being downloaded on the initial load. So we're having a ton of extra stuff being downloaded that may not necessarily be needed. We can also open up this view source and just do a quick check for schema, and we're not going to find anything. However, if we do a search for CSS, we're getting 21 files and 48 JavaScript files. Keep in mind, this is also before you add something like BBPress, which the theme is also compatible with. Let's do a quick test through GT Matrix, which is a benchmarking software for websites, and we'll see if we can get a test from it. If it comes up with an error, we'll have to do some modification to see if we can retrieve it. But in the meantime, we can look over some more of the features. Really nice layout. It truly is a nice looking theme. It covers a lot of ground. It's got a really nice interface, a lot of animations that aren't necessarily slowing it down, beautiful menus, fully responsive, a great news theme. Also, it's great for multi-author news websites, which a lot of people in WordPress try to do, but there's not a lot of themes that really fit their need. And that's because WordPress is still stuck in this blogging stage because of how commits are being pushed to the core and how there's a lot of focus on the customizer, which are all more blogging aspects, which I'm guessing most WordPress users are probably using it for simple blogs, but the fact remains that the largest percentage of their traffic is probably coming from the giant news corporations like CNN and others that are using WordPress. As we can see, this thing's taking forever to process it, and I don't like that. I don't like it taking forever. We're gonna log into my account, and we're going to just push this website in here, and I have it set to Dallas, but that may not work. We have to change the server location because sometimes it's just not going to be able to fetch it, in which case we like to change the server location. But let's jump onto some of the major design issues with this theme. Number one, from the developer, you cannot currently get rid of the third sidebar. Most news websites don't have a third sidebar unless it's for other reasons. But for instance, CNN has basically got a sidebar and then their main content area. But it doesn't feel like it's a traditional WordPress site because the boxes make it feel like it's 3-column. But I'm getting bombarded with ads. Another thing is it doesn't have a news widget like like CNN. News widgets like this, while extremely simple, actually do help not only bring in more users, but they help the users that are already there. And it seems like this thing is still wanting to be annoying, so we're going to cheat. In this case, it doesn't look like it's going to be retrieved from here, so we're going to change it to London, UK, unthrottled connection, and now we'll go. This happens every once in a while, mostly because there's so many requests coming from that one particular server that's probably backing it up. So we use another server in a different country, which probably isn't going to be getting near as much traffic, because honestly, when you're making a website, you're going to be targeting the United States. Advertisers pay the most to be here, so you're going to want your ads to generate the best, and you want to have the fastest load time here. But we're gonna come into a lot of issues with this theme. It has a ton, and I repeat, a ton of built-in plugins. Let's go to the simple post page like this. It's a very simple, nice little post. We can't get rid of this thing. So what happens is the content feels cramped. On a news site, the content shouldn't be so cramped. It should feel more natural. While the news timeline looked great on the home page when it comes to the post, it doesn't look that way. It's extremely cramped and it's cluttered because all the content's being squeezed between two sidebars that the viewer may not even care about. It has the nice image though for the author. It looks really professional, always linking back to the author page, gives you a nice post date, and it's a really nice layout. But then we're going to run into another issue. This is easy social share buttons. While it's great for a lot of websites, this doesn't fit the theme of this website. This was meant to be a news theme, and it kind of looks trashy. By having these large collection of buttons at the bottom, it's actually distracting the user, and it doesn't look symmetrical. In news themes, typically you want to have something that looks very symmetrical and feels fluid to you. You want it to be organized and you want it to feel natural. That's what your users are really going to enjoy. But it doesn't seem like we're getting that here because this was just pushed in. However, because it's a plugin, you could in theory turn the buttons on or off as needed, which is great. The downside though again is the fact that since it's another plugin, it's adding a lot more CSS to JavaScript files, which aren't necessarily needed for you. The theme should instead drop the easy social share buttons and add their own that could be turned on and off as one, or simply just create basic ones and allow the users to add the plugin if they wish. We have a nice watch more. It should be read more as opposed to watch more, but that can be changed. It's probably from their own settings. And it's got a really beautiful comments section. To log in to reply is an option on all of them. That's great because it's a great way of cutting down spam. Then you have a nice professional banner at the bottom. This is great because even though it's at the bottom at their view, a lot of the time the users are going to scroll to the bottom of the page and they're going to be looking for something to escape. So even though they have their articles here, their contributors, tags, and other wild junk down here, the advertisement could still draw their attention and generate more clicks. Sometimes just because something's not above the fold doesn't mean it can't perform well, but this will all vary depending on your own testing. Again, if we look into this theme, if I look for any form of schema, I'm going to come up with nothing. There's no schema markup at all. But let's quickly look at the test. Ooh, a page load time of 58.19 seconds. Now, some of the things that are a major issue. This thing has absolutely no optimization done in the first place. Nothing except maybe they set browser caching in W3 Total Cache. We can simply check that by looking at the bottom of the page. It might be using WordPress Supercache, which it is. This is generating in 2.498 seconds, but the problem is the testing tool is saying that it's loading a lot slower, and the reason for that is because it's one, in a different location, and two, because the theme is extremely heavy. The home page alone is making 250 requests. I've worked with themes like that, and you can get it down to 40 fairly easy. While these tests are not the end-all be-all, it's important to follow the rules. For instance, another thing about the WordPress Easy Social Share buttons is it's using add import for a font. You shouldn't use add import at all, let alone for fonts. Fonts should actually just be added to the header naturally, and they should be combined with all the others. This is not so much a big deal. Optimizing the order of styles and scripts, it's not that big of a deal. It just helps because of parallel downloading, and it makes it easier to render the page. Deferring the JavaScript, that can be done mostly on your own. query strings don't really slow it down. They're just some issues with some proxy servers. Here's where things start to get annoying. You have 3.4 megabytes of overscaled images. Now, I don't know if the theme actually processes them at all. I'm not sure if it's actually going to give you the correct sizes. But I think that the images are just being forced inside the container. The issue with that is that they're being forced inside the container that way. It's going to slow their load time down because you're adding a lot of extra bytes that aren't needed. If this is a 1200 by 750 image, why are you showing something? Why is it only allowed to show half of that? By doing so, you could save a ton of space, which this theme doesn't seem to be doing properly. It would also appear that none of the images have their dimensions specified. The reason that this matters is because it actually improves the load time by having a set size. And also for every one of those little buttons up there, it seems like we almost have two. It seems like we almost have two buttons, one for the actual image and then there's the hover. But I can't seem to find it, which is annoying. So there definitely needs to be images specified in order to prove the rendering. Load, avoid CSS import, we were done. Combining, optimizing images, those can all be done. They're not really theme specific. But one thing that definitely is theme specific is the DOM elements. A DOM element is just any, I like to think of it as anytime you're using a division tag. Whenever you use a div element, something that's adding something, for instance, these, even the little icons are DOM elements, all of these are probably DOM elements. They're just, it's basically how complex the page is. It's a very heavy theme, so you can get away with having it so complex, but then you can't ignore other theme issues, like the lack of specified images. And another thing that you're going to get with this is not the entity tags, but you're going to have a lot of issues with Gravatar because that's where the images are being pulled. But let's quickly go back to the actual thing. Because this thing uses BuddyPress, we should have a nice looking BuddyPress menu. Not quite. While it does have some custom styling, you're going to run into an issue fairly soon. This is your page. Why is there a news timeline? If we go to the actual BuddyPress page, it's going to feel overly cramped. This is cramped. The user content is being cramped because of the extra sidebar. This causes a lot of issues. Because it's so cramped, congested, it doesn't feel natural to us. It also seems like certain footers, certain pages have different footers. This was a really nice footer. It adds even more content to keep the user on your page. With an attractive image and 4 different posts, you're adding a lot more content for the viewer to read. I guess the little advertising widget is nice, and they even have hovers for the widgets. Nice. It's a very nice theme. It just has some design flaws. This sidebar should be cut out. If I'm on my BuddyPress page, why on earth would I care about the news timeline? I have a hot news ticker right here, and at the above I have a special header. So the theme developer should actually drop the third sidebar, or at least have an option to disable it. If you're only using the theme for news, then you may find the design attractive, but for most people, it's absolutely hideous. It's going to slow it down, and it's going to make it feel a lot more just cramped. Let's look at the shop page. The shop page is the only thing that actually does not have the third sidebar for some reason. So clearly it can be disabled, but the way he has it set up, it is not. Now, this is not really that important, but it's a really nice looking design. Let's quickly specify. We have a very elegant layout for this. Instead of it all being on top of each other, we have this over to the right, and then the content gets smaller to show the actual price versus the say of what it used to be. It's also got this nice percentage sign, which I'm guessing is supposed to say what percentage it is off, but it's actually a theme error, in which case the developer's going to have to fix it. Or maybe it was fixed in a patch that I was unaware about. Let's go to the actual page. Let's say I want to buy these racer shoes. Nice looking layout, very traditional WooCommerce setup. It's a very elegant looking theme. Let's hover over here. Let's see if it works. Uses the basic, very basic. Looks nice, gets the job done. Feels natural, and instead of having those annoying little buttons, you just type it in. That's fine, looks good to me. You even have a nice little login widget. What happens if I click go to the login page, or you can sign up? Really simple. Looks great. It truly does look great. This would be something that would look wonderful with User Pro as opposed to using BuddyPress, because User Pro is a lot better in features and it looks really wonderful. Let's jump over to the contact page. Let's see what it looks like. The contact page is very simple, but again, it feels overly cramped. Also, this doesn't look right. Why do we have a small little contact form? Should there be something over here? What if we were to take this and enlarge it, or what if we were to take this message or this map and put it to the right? Then it would feel more natural because it would actually fill the space as opposed to leaving this giant white space that just looks hideous. We should also look at the sitemap. The sitemap is not really a sitemap. It's kind of like the 404 page. In fact, it's basically the 404 page. It just includes the 30 most recent posts. I wouldn't call it a sitemap, I would just call it a page. You can go to the authors page, which is really well done. It looks natural and it looks very professional. You have all the authors, you see all their posts, you have all their social media buttons and their little biographies. If you click, and let's say I click this page, I'll be taken to the author page and it will have their most recent post. It looks wonderful and it feels absolutely natural. That's how things should be. Unfortunately, the only thing I don't like again is the inability to turn off this sidebar. That's going to bother me throughout the entire thing though. Now the nice thing, those breadcrumbs are built in. Downside of those breadcrumbs is they're not able to be turned off. They're not able to not be turned. Actually, they can be turned off, but you can't add RDFA or schema markup to them. Meaning Google's not going to care about those breadcrumbs being there, but it may help your users, which is all in all what you should be aiming for. If you go to the shop page though, those breadcrumbs quickly disappear because they're not built in for it, so it just turns them off. If we go back to our BuddyPress, even the activity page, it's got a basic one there. If we go to this person, it has it. So it would be nice that the author actually looked into integrating it. I will be right back. I need to check that message. Alright, we can finish this up. So the main things that need to happen, if you're going to get this theme, I would really recommend looking into getting someone to optimize it. I actually thought about getting this theme and then I realized it has a ton of stuff. And it looks really great. It looks absolutely wonderful. But I look at it and I just say, that's a lot of inline styles. That's a lot of stuff that needs to be fixed. And that's a lot of, it's just stuff. It's still a fairly new theme, which is great and all, but it needs to be worked on. If the developer actually watches this, I recommend going through, clearing out some of the plugins, trying to combine the ones from the theme, and removing the inline styles. Inline styles and inline JavaScript should all be combined to as many little things as you can in order to optimize it. The only thing else that I could really say that I don't like is the third sidebar should be dropped, and I wish that all these widgets were loading with Ajax as opposed to having all of the things brought in at once. It would also be interesting to see if this layout was different and more fluid, to where we could have this as maybe a third column extend all the way out with more posts very similar to Newsbag. So thank you very much for watching. Please stay tuned for the next video, and I hope you have a wonderful day.